Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Self-Love Self-Care System Conversation with Experts. Today, we have the lovely Kimberley Leite from Beings of Light. Kimberley is a counsellor, Ascension teacher, light language alchemist, Reiki therapist, and channel for various non-physical love-based beings. These beings refer to themselves as the beings of the light, and she brings these forth with Ascension Teachings. Kimberley has been connected to angelic beings since her early adolescent years. Her role as a teacher and facilitator to other light workers arose when she experienced transformational personal trauma and healed herself using energy healing and an application of well-being via the law of attraction. As a result, Kimberley began her professional training as a counsellor and relationship therapist, earning her Bachelor of Counselling and a graduate diploma of relationship counselling during this time, while working as a professional counsellor. She came to remember her ability to channel higher dimensional beings. Kimberley also hosts in-person and online events, as well as hosting her podcast shows. And without further ado, hello, Kim, and welcome to the show. It's absolutely lovely to have you here.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me on. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
You are welcome. So just for my viewers, I would like to tell you, we do know each other. Kim and I know each other. So I would say we're friends. So this might be quite informal and very gentle. And it's just going to ask him some questions. Could you explain for the viewers what the Ascension Teachings are and how they assist us in this time? As in, what kind of lessons the beings of light bring through?
All right. Well, there's a few different teachings here. So overarching, the Ascension Teachings is basically empowering teachers to power your life using law of attraction, oneness teaching, and other esoteric information about how the world and the universe works, right? Basically, the very foundation of it all is that we're already enlightened beings. We have just forgotten. So it's a process of doing shadow work, or you might like to refer this as inner soul work. So it's about consciously looking at our limiting beliefs, right? So as we do that, as we process, so basically how do we know we have a limiting belief? When you have negative emotion, that's a sign that you have a limiting belief, right? And it's a sign that you have a dimension of you, a shadow self, a version of you that does not love itself. It's in need of your love. So basically, it's a version of you visiting you, right? So by you accepting what's going on, by you processing that, by you opening a communication dialogue with dimension of you, by you discovering what that limiting belief is, which could be you're judging someone, judging something, you're seeing something as wrong. There's a bunch of different beliefs that we adopt into our energy field since we're born. Plus, we also have some from other lives as well. And by doing that, we raise our frequency and we integrate more of our dimensions of self so we can activate more of our oneness remembrance. So with the oneness teachings aspect, it's recognition that there is no separation. So the beings of the light, yes, I like to say they're separate beings, but they're not separate beings. We are the beings of the light. They're dimensions of us, right? We're all one. And me and him, we're the same. Me and the tree outside are the same. We're one consciousness, which is a unique frequency of source. We're all God. We're all enlightened. We're just playing different roles here in a duality consciousness. But who we truly are is oneness. So it's about understanding, what to do when you're triggered. And the most common way is maybe you're triggered by somebody, for instance, or a condition. And the beings of light would say that if you're triggered by another, they are your mirror. So that it basically includes other laws like law of reflection. So if someone triggers you, it's not someone causing you harm. They are mirroring a limiting belief you have about yourself or about others. So it's like their higher self and your higher self are in this together, bringing this soul lesson through for your expansion. So everything's for your evolution. So it's about practicing this. So you can, in the moment, become the observer and ask, what are you not seeing? What is my limiting belief here? And just even if you cannot see your limiting belief in the moment, if you can just see that they are your master teacher in disguise, you'll elevate your perspective and your vibration to such a point where, because of law of attraction, if someone was responding in a fearful way, they would automatically change on their own because they are now mirroring your reflection. So it's about seeing like everything that's reflected outside of you as a mirror to you in your vibration. So if you know this, you can see where you are in your vibration. So if you're experiencing a lot of fear, then you know you've got limiting belief, and you will manifest conditions that reflect that. But it's not wrong. You did it. It's not like your fault, right? It's things that we're supposed to go through. So I know there is some things, you know, when I got into law of attraction, I also thought this because I didn't have a deeper understanding. I thought, oh, so if someone has like a cancer, they attracted, it's their fault. No, it's not that. We have soul contracts as well. So things we choose pre-birth to go through for our evolution. So don't think if you have certain conditions around you that you caused it because you weren't thinking the right thoughts. That's not how it works also. But just, yeah, it's basically utilizing the fact that we are God. We have just forgotten. So you have to consciously raise your perception of self-love and self-worth, because if you don't think you're worthy enough, you're not going to be able to have that clarity to receive the wisdom, to see oneness in yourself and all others. So basically, it's a process of unlearning our conditions, our conditioned beliefs. So that's the inner shadow work, the inner soul work, right? Doing all that work. And yes, it's not always pretty. It's not always easy. It's not just thinking positive thoughts, because if you just think positive thoughts, you know, all these limiting beliefs we've adopted is still in our energy frequency, even if we've repressed it, right? It's still there. But to work on them is not to all the time go back and to address it. It's only when you're triggered in the moment by the fear, which is any kind of negative emotion. It's basically, it means you are seeing something from a perspective. It's not from the eyes of source. So it's about consciously tuning your perspective to that of source consciousness, because in higher truth, everything is neutral. But in perspective of humanity and our way of navigating reality, it's through unconditional acceptance. That's the equivalent, right? So unconditional acceptance means you don't have to agree with someone's behavior, a certain condition, but it's about acceptance of it. Because if you practice acceptance, you become more than you actually go even more past like neutral, and you start to tap into the frequency of love. And that's when you start to see yourself and the world through the eyes of source. And that is when you can raise your frequency, activate your divine blueprint, which is what we call as our spiritual mainframe. You then activate more of your psychic abilities, awareness of your soul purpose. And you just start to manifest conditions to give you evidence of just how powerful you are. So it's sort of trusting the system, but you really do need to elevate, do the inner work, because without the inner work, you know, thinking positive thoughts is going to get you so far. You know, you need to get to your vibration, and a lot of that stuff is hidden in our consciousness. So it's about being aware when you're triggered, living in the present moment, and, you know, seeing the acceptance and the love in all things. And I know it's hard because a lot of the time, you know, we like to judge our own self and our journey, but it's about accepting wherever you are, that there is no race, there is no competition, there is no endpoint to reach. It's the journey, and everyone's journey is different and unique. So it's about being in acceptance where you are at, where everybody's at. And then when you're comfortable with accepting conditions and people and everything manifests in your life, you can raise that even further to be gratitude, you know, to be grateful, raise the love frequency. You can be excited. You can get to a point where you can be, you know, excited about experiencing a fearful situation, because it's you changing your perceptions to fear itself. If you can know that fear is just a teacher, know that if you're triggered by something, it's a soul lesson, because you're ready for higher expansion. You are master teachers. Everyone that's living here on earth are highly advanced beings, right? Even those that trigger you, they're just playing a different role for you. So once you can start with that point that we're all advanced, enlightened beings, that will allow you to have a foundation so you can do the deeper work, right? Because you already know you're worthy. And yes, it takes time to mind yourself, and, you know, it doesn't happen overnight, right? Because you have a lifetime of conditioning, but it's just doing your meditation, doing your inner work, practicing the oneness in all others, practicing seeing the mirror, connecting to the mirror. If you can't do your meditations, connect to nature, to Gaia, because she is a reflection of us. We are her. So it's about seeing the mirrors in our reality too. So it's, information that has been passed down, many different civilizations. And of course, it's been transformed in different ways. So basically, it's, just the journey to remember that we are God, that we are source, that we are divine.
That was absolutely beautiful. I love that. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's amazing. Really beautiful. Kim, I just want to go back to one little point that you made where you said that thinking positive thoughts is only going to get you to so far. Now, it's a really interesting one because a lot of the spiritual community, and when people start to get into learning about these pathways, that's one of the things that does tend to come up quite quickly. People start to say things like, we need to think positive thoughts. Could you maybe expand upon that a little bit more about why that maybe isn't going to always be the only answer? Because I think it is kind of expected that if you're not thinking positive thoughts, then you're not going to be achieving, or you're not really being spiritual.
Yeah, it's a big thing that I see. So it's called spiritual bypassing.
That's it. Yes.
You can't spiritual bypass, guys. Look, you can think the most positive thoughts, but if you don't deal with the inner trauma, if you don't deal with the limiting beliefs, guess what? The universe still responds to that, even if you're not consciously aware of it or not. So that is why the shadow work is an integral part of what I teach. And but it's how you change how you perceive fear itself. So a lot of the time, we don't like to deal with that stuff, right? Because it's yucky and we don't want to deal with it. But it's actually our perceptions of fear that causes us resistance. So if you can change your perception of fear and negative emotion, it's easier for you. So yes, when you're triggered by negative emotion, it's about analyzing it, but bring it into your heart when you have a shadow self visiting you, which is an opportunity for you to integrate a separated aspect of you. Because once you integrate these dimensions of you, you remember more of your oneness state. That's how I become oneness remembered. So, it's not easy, but the quickest way and the most effective way to heal from it is you need to feel your emotion fully. Often we feel negative emotion, like, I don't want to feel this way. Okay, whatever, think of a positive thought, think of a higher perspective. And yes, it might help you in the moment to put a band-aid on it, but you need to actually rectify that limiting belief. Otherwise, it's still there in your consciousness. It doesn't just vanish, right? So, and often at times, sometimes we think we've worked on it and it'll come back around, but it's not the same belief. You'll actually, each time you work on a belief, you raise your frequency. So then you actually return to it, but at a different dimensional perspective, a different viewpoint, a different angle. So it's never the same belief in a way, right? We just might perceive it to be, but it's never not the same one. All right. So when you're triggered by negative emotion, right, you have a lot of the fear and habitual systems, right? It's in our ego mind. So bring it into the heart, right? Feel the emotion fully. Yes. I want you to feel the emotion fully. I want you to, no matter what it is, cry, scream, whatever it is, yell, do it in your heart. Do it. You have to, for you to see the soul lessons, you need to let go of the resistance to it. You cannot see the wisdom in these shadow selves if you're resistant to it, right? And for you to truly heal and integrate it, you need to feel it, right? So give yourself permission to feel the emotion. So yes, sit with the emotion. And cry, whatever you need to do, feel the emotion, because when you do that, you let go of the resistance to it. And when you do that, you'll discover it actually moves more quickly through you because you're not holding on to it. So once you are non-resistant to that and you're feeling the emotion in your heart center, that's when you can open the dialogue. Your channel is more clear. You have the clarity. Just remember, when you have a negative emotion, it's not just an emotion, it is a dimension of you that needs loving, right? So you are then communicating with a version of you, it could be your inner child, a dimension of you, from the past, whatever it is. So bring it into your heart space, open the dialogue and ask, what am I not seeing here? What is my limiting belief here? open the dialogue, right? And then you'll receive the message with practice, but you need to be open to whatever it is. And sometimes it's not what you want to hear. So you need to be open to the message, no matter what it is, right? Be in your heart center. If you're at a perception where you don't see yourself as worthy and lovable, you're going to also be resistant to the message coming back if it's not something that you want to hear. But if you can anchor yourself in self-love and self-worth, no matter what comes back, no matter what limiting belief comes back at you, you're going to be able to move through it, right? So that's why increasing self-love and self-worth is so vital in part of this process. But once you can open the communication, yes, you can do it in the moment, but sometimes it's difficult, right? You'll get, with practice, you'll receive what your limiting belief is. It could just purely be that you're judging someone or you're seeing someone as wrong, because in higher truth, if you judge someone, you're judging yourself. So it's also allowing you to see the oneness, right? So are you seeing something from a point of duality or oneness, fear or love? So it's giving you opportunities to grow and expand here. And you'll find once you discover that limiting belief, you'll be like, oh yeah, and then all of a sudden you have this feeling of relief come over you, and that means you've integrated that dimension of you. And then you'll find that the situation will shift on its own. I've been in situations where I didn't have to say a word, and I've just literally changed my perceptions of what was happening, and it changed just like that on its own, because it mirrors your vibration. So it's, it's not always easy, but it's about being comfortable with the uncomfortable. And the more times you do this, the more times you practice, it just doesn't become as hard anymore, right? Of course, if you've never delved into your shadow selves, when you first do it, of course, it might be a bit more intense, right? Because you're not used to it. But after a while, and you change your perceptions to fear, and you understand it is just a version of you that needs love. That's all it is. So once you know that it's just a part of you, like you wouldn't want to, separate a part of you, would you? You wouldn't want to, cause harm to yourself. So it's basically when you are able to face your shadow selves, you are acknowledging all parts of you and all dimensions of you. And that's how you remember your divinity. So yeah, it takes practice. And of course, when you do that, yes, there is a balance. So you just do that when you trigger a negative emotion, but also follow your passions, follow your joy. So yes, there is that element of the positivity, but it's not one thing over another. It's a balance. Right? So yes, follow your passion. And when you do that, when you follow your joy, that also opens the channel and the clarity of what steps to take. So do that also. But when you're triggered by negative emotion, don't ignore it. So it's both. And that's by you doing that, that's heals you, the most, expands you the most, and allows you to really anchor into this physical reality with the awareness that you are one.
Beautiful. I love that. So good. And as you remember, I teach and work with self-love and care. So you've got me if you need me, and obviously Kim. But there's so many of us out there who can help with these things, because actually delving into the shadow for some people can be quite traumatizing. So it's good to have assistance sometimes, because we get blocked with the fear, because it can be quite dark. And when you get stuck behind that darkness, you don't want to proceed beyond that. And even though you might be able to see that light right up at the end of the tunnel, you're imagine like if you don't like certain insects or something, imagine you're just seeing them in there. You're not going to go there, because it's a paralysis fear, really, and it will stop you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to say this now. Kim is my first interview for Conversations with Experts. So she's very special. And it's been amazing and lovely having you here. And I love working with you, because I do feel we're quite in sync. And so that's really, really good. So Kim, for our viewers, where can they find you? I will put all the handles in the information at the bottom, because dear Kim has so many handles. So you might want to just say a few of those.
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, thank you for having me on, and I love working with you too, and it's very honoured that I'm your first guest. But yeah, I do have a lot of socials. So basically the easiest thing to do is just to go on my website, beingsofthelight.com, and you'll find on the website, if you scroll to the bottom, you'll have all my socials. So I've got Facebook page, Facebook group, Beings of Light with Kimberley Community. I've got Instagram, Beings of Light. I've got YouTube channel. I've got 2 podcasts, Mystical Musings with Friends. Again, I set the Ascension, the live Ascension Teachings, which is basically the recordings of my live channeling sessions. So yeah, but again, all the links are there on my website. So check it out. And thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And like as I say, I will put Kim's links down in the information. And as you see now, she has lots and lots of different socials where you can find her. And as you know where you can find me. You can find me on Facebook at the Angel System page or the Self-Love Self-Care System coaching page. And obviously there's this as well. And you never know, I might start some other things too. So thank you all very much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. We send you so much love. Namaste. We'll definitely speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.